All right, here we are with another episode of Welcome to Square Dance Callers Talking. I should get that right after the first go around. I'm Charlie Petrie. Tonight I'm talking to Teresa Berger from Indiana. She is a square dance caller and recording artist. So Teresa, I think we've got everything worked out. We had some sound issues earlier. So let's talk about you. Tell us how you're doing.
I am doing great. Thanks for asking. So excited to be on the podcast.
It's great to have you. That is for sure. We're going to talk about square dance calling, and we'll talk about Callerlab and things like that, and just what you enjoy the most about square dancing and square dance calling. So tell us how long you've been square dance calling and dancing.
Sure. So to kind of take a step back, I grew up square dancing with my parents. My mom actually square danced as a child with her parents back in the 70s. And then they took a break. Then when my mom and dad were young, they were together and they were at the fair and saw square dancing there. And my mom said to my dad, like, I can do that. And so then they took lessons together. And I think that's just the cutest thing
Yeah.
ever. So they got married, had kids, and then took a break from square dancing to raise their family. Um, and then when my brother and I were in elementary school, they started square dancing again at the local square dance club.
Right.
And they, would take us along. Andrew and I would sit there at the dance, and finally we're like, this is boring. We want to be out on the dance floor dancing. And
Right.
so we took lessons pretty shortly after they started dancing, actually in my parents' garage. And we had,
Wow.
learned had a great group, and kind of the rest is history from there. We've been dancing ever since. Um as far as starting calling, my brother is actually the one, we'll blame him for
Okay.
that. He wanted to learn to call. We went to our first national square dance convention in 2010. That was when it was in Louisville.
Okay.
And it was our summer vacation. We were teenagers. And so our parents, took us to the national convention when it was there. And we had a blast. I was in awe of the national convention. You probably remember just like the awe that happens when you get into a big hall if you've not
Sure.
experienced that
Yeah.
before, right? And
Yep.
just the energy that there's people from all over. I was like, this is a great opportunity for us. We need to dance all day. We need not don't take any breaks, right? And
That's the
so
best part of a convention. Sure.
yes, it was so much fun. And we were young, right? We had so much energy. My parents, they said, listen, you can dance wherever you want in the convention as long as you stay together. So my brother and I were just a year apart. So we would go out and dance, different halls. We got to dance with people our own age, which wasn't something that we had done very often, right? Because there's not a big group in this area at the time. And so we, were dancing all over the place, but he kept taking us back to the vendors area. And I was like, dude, we need to get back on the dance floor. We are missing out on opportunities to dance. But he would want to listen to some of the square dance music that was being sold. He'd talk to Callerlab. We met Dana and Donna Shermer with the Callerlab home office at the time. And we kept kind of finding ourselves back at that area. We ended up going home with the starter kit for new callers, that book that Callerlab
Yeah.
publishes
Uh-huh.
for new callers. And so Andrew started learning to call. He started practicing singing calls, and it was kind of a natural progression for me of, listen, if he can do this, like I
Right.
can do it too, right? I can sing along. And we grew up singing as a family, and so that was something we enjoyed. And we sang, in church every week. So when he would practice the singing calls, I would jump in and eventually was like, listen, like I can do the calling part too.
Yeah.
And so that was 2010, shortly after the national convention that we had, the kind of started learning how to call.
Yeah. So now, along with your brother, and y'all both started at the same time, roughly. What are there any callers out there that kind of gave you a hand up or a little bit of do it, try it this way, do that? What'd you do besides caller schools and caller schools?
Yeah, sure. So when we first started, our home club was the Star Riders Square Dance Club up in northern Indiana, where we're from. And the club caller at the time, his name was Jim Pahokee, and he's since passed, but he was so gracious that every single dance he would let us call two singing calls. So we would get ready and we'd have our two singing calls for the night. And that happened every single dance for a long time. He had been with the club, gosh, a long, long time. And so it was cool to have that opportunity of like just do two and every week do two more.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how we got started. And then the next summer, we had the amazing opportunity to go to Caller School at the Heart of America Caller School. There, it was
Okay.
held in Topeka, Kansas that year. And the
Who
staff
was
was,
on that one? Who was
yeah,
on that staff?
sure. The staff was Jerry Junk and Paul Henze and the late Tim Mariner. So it was incredible. We learned so much, and just really great folks to work with. It was an amazing opportunity, and we met some of the coolest people in that area too.
I mean, as far as calling goes, Tim Mariner and Paul Henze and Mr. John, what's his last first name?
Jerry.
Jerry. I've never had the opportunity to actually speak to him. I've been to a
Yeah.
couple of schools and listened to him, but their choreography is, I mean, it's phenomenal. So that's great that that was one of your first caller schools with those guys.
Yeah,
They're awesome.
absolutely. Yeah,
And
since
Tim, like I
then,
told you, Tim Mariner taught me to dance 28, 29 years ago, a long time ago. But that's awesome. And so you went to the school and you decided, hey, I want to try this. So where'd that take you? When did you decide that it's time for me to do my own dance? When did that happen?
yeah. So we were lucky that, when the first probably 4 or 5 years, we always called together, my brother and I. And that was I feel like when you're learning, like that's a really good system to have. Not only was it like, moral support of like, yeah, let's do it together, but like if you are on the spot, it is
Yeah.
helpful to have somebody else next to you, just to kind of give you a little feedback. So that was fantastic as we were learning, and we loved calling together. We still do, and the chance to sing in harmony and just have a good time there. And we started again as we were teenagers, and then as we got, into college, our schedules did not line up quite as often. You know how that goes.
Sure.
So we started accepting bookings on our own and calling dances on our own. And so that was probably 2014 or 15, somewhere in there, that really started calling my own dances. I taught my first set of lessons by myself, and kind of have kept with that ever since. But we still enjoy calling together when we get the opportunity.
How were the nerves when you started teaching your first class?
Yeah. So honestly, I love teaching square dancing.
Okay.
There's just something about like sharing something that I love so much with people. It definitely like takes a little bit to find your rhythm. But like we had that together, right? Where we were kind of
Right.
figuring it out as we went, doing a lot of research and
Right.
figuring out what worked for us. And then so it was kind of that natural, like I was excited to be able to share square dancing with the people. And I've had some of the best students, right? Obviously I'm biased, but
Yeah. Oh,
they're so
sure. Sure.
sweet. And just really good. Like, and a lot of them that I still keep in touch with, even after I've moved. Now that I'm in the Indianapolis area, a lot of the folks that I taught are still up north, but it's still sweet to keep in touch
Oh,
with
that's
them and
good.
see them out dancing.
That's awesome. So how many classes have you taught? Just the one, or did you teach some after that?
Oh gosh, yeah, I think I've lost count at this point.
Wow.
Taught several sets of lessons up
Oh,
north.
that's great.
So
That's
that was
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
That's one thing I'm just now, my club, we started classes 6 weeks ago. And and that this is my first go at teaching. And it's tough, and I've got somebody helping me out with it too. But it's like on partner trade, for example, I'm like, you just turn that way. That's what, I'm, I'm trying to get a handle on how to explain it to people. Some of them are easy to do, and some of them just like, well, that's how we do partner trade. Let's just go do it. So once I get some more under my belt, I'll be a little more at ease with it. But that to me is more nerve wracking than somebody just saying, "Hey, why don't you come up here and do a tip with just cold with nothing? I'll go up and do it for you, and I'll get through it." But I am nervous when it comes to teaching. So with your teaching and all that, where do you dance level wise, and where do you call level wise?
Yeah, so I dance through A2 and
Okay.
I call through plus. At this point, kind of my focus is on the kind of entry level square dancing and how can we build square dancing back up.
Yeah.
In my area, we're lucky in Indianapolis here that we have several clubs and there are a couple sets of lessons that are going. But I definitely want to kind of revive the activity here,
Sure.
and see more square dancing and have it be a little bit more common in this area. So that's kind of my focus. Eventually I may, start calling some of the higher levels, but for now I'm totally content where I'm at and I really enjoy just a good mainstream dance. So
Okay, that's awesome. Well, tell me about Callerlab. You work for Callerlab, obviously. You're a member. I'm a member. most of the people that I know and are Callerlab members. So for somebody who wants to be a caller, just talk to me about Callerlab. What do they need to do, and what does Callerlab do for them?
Sure. So, as you know, Callerlab is the International Association of Square Dance Callers,
Right.
and our mission is to foster the art of square dance calling and improve caller skills.
Okay.
So, essentially, that means that Callerlab works a lot behind the scenes to keep the activity going. So, we do obviously focus on the standardization of calls, right? Callerlab members are the ones who have designed the program lists, have defined the calls, have created some of those teaching resources to help out callers who are teaching and need some help on that part. But that's one of the pieces that we have. We also host an annual convention that we can talk about, that it's a
Yeah.
great professional development opportunity for callers, for dance leaders, for dancers, just a good time to get together and talk about the activity and how can we grow as an activity, how can we grow as leaders to better serve the dance world. And other things that Callerlab does, we work on licensing and insurance, right? Whenever copyright music is played, you have to have a BMI ASCAP license.
Very
And
important.
so
Yep.
Callerlab works as kind of the middleman to help facilitate that for square dance callers, and also offer that liability insurance to make sure that our members are covered here in the US. But really, Callerlab is a membership association. And so all of those things that we do, we really couldn't do without the members, right? And so I think that that's the most inspiring part for me, is that, like, as the director, I'm not the one who makes the list. I don't get to define the calls. It's the members, right? That when they join Callerlab, like, they have a voice in those big decisions for the activity. And so we're made up of a system of committees, quite a few of them. There's all of the programs have a committee. There's different application review committee, the choreographic applications committee that work on the programs and the dance themselves. But then also, like, membership support. We have a women in calling committee, right? For women who are square dance callers. Our international advisory committee, kind of focusing on how can we make sure that we're best supporting our international members. We've also got a marketing committee that's doing a lot right now. You've probably seen some of the work that they're doing with their new livelively.squaredance.com website and some marketing videos. That's just really exciting. Some of those things that we're doing to preserve and promote the activity as well. So that's kind of the overview of what we do. But I'm so encouraged every day to be able to talk with square dance callers and dancers around the world and hear about the work that they're doing, the things that they're trying in their area to keep square dancing going. So I say I have the best job in the world. It's definitely challenging, but it is so encouraging to see the work that people are doing and to be able to have kind of access to that and to be able to see that every day.
Now, it does sound like it, and I'll tell you, and we'll talk about the convention in Reno, Nevada, in a couple of weeks. When I started out square dance calling, I live in Atlanta. That's where I've been. I've been in Georgia my whole life, but I started square dance calling, and so I didn't know any callers except for the handful that were in the Atlanta area. And so one of them, who's passed away now, Ray Monty, he said, you need to join Callerlab, because that's who he was with, and just for insurance and all that, and to play the music. And so I joined Callerlab, and then I found out about these music labels that are out there, and some of these people I was watching on YouTube. And so, even at my age, which is a advanced age, I went to my first Callerlab. Gosh, I don't know, 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. I can't remember where it was. But going in there, you see all these guys and girls and women that are callers that I've watched on YouTube, and I was starstruck. You're walking up and you're like, oh my God, that's Tony Oxendine. Look at Tony Oxendine. And then when you get to meet them, you're just like, they're awesome people, just like dancers. I tell everybody, square dancing is one of the few places you can stroll in and put your purse in a chair and go dance. If you don't know a soul, odds are your purse is fine. There's very few places on the planet you can do that anymore. And the square dance callers are just the next level of that. I've met so many, and they're fantastic people. And Callerlab was a big part of that. I went to the Callerlab, and all of a sudden you're sitting there next to these people you've watched on YouTube or somebody you bought a record from, on one of the record labels, you're like, they're right here, and it's amazing. So Callerlab did that for me. I've met a ton of people, met you, and all the Callerlab folks. So big fan. So we've got Reno, Nevada coming up in the end of April. Really looking forward to that. One, never been to Reno. Two, it's Callerlab, and good times during the day with all the classes that they're offered and instruction, and then at night the dances. I tell some of my dancers, I'm like, you've got to go to a Callerlab. And we're not callers. I'm like, well, you don't understand the level of dance and the level of calling that when you go to the Callerlab, you can't find anywhere else. National conventions are great, but everybody's 100 miles an hour in all directions because I got to be in this room. I got to be in that room. Let's go do this. Hey, somebody's calling over here. Let's go watch them. Callerlab, you're just like, hey, that's the folks from Royal Records or whoever. They're doing a dance. And you just sit there and listen. And some of the choreography is just amazing. So enough about my thoughts on that. Reno, Nevada, anything you want to throw out there for Reno for us to look forward to?
Sure. So as you mentioned, Reno's just a fun city to visit anyway. And we're located at the Nugget Casino Resort there in Sparks, right outside of Reno. That's located right on Victorian Avenue. So on top of the convention, there's tons of things to do in the area. Just lots of touristy things if you wanted to make a trip out of it. It's just a fun place to go. The other cool thing about the place where we're staying is that there's plenty to do at the resort as well, that if you want to get there and not ever leave, you will have plenty to do. Lots of restaurant options. The pool overlooks the mountains. It's just gorgeous. So lots of fun there. The theme for the convention this year is play your cards right. So the executive committee, they're the ones that plan all of the sessions and kind of brainstorm to create the program and to find something different for folks. And they've done a really great job this year of putting together a program. They've got some new sessions on there that you haven't seen before. So you'll definitely want to check those out. I won't say anything more about that. It'll be a surprise, but we're looking forward to the content during the day. Monday night, we've got a new event happening during the evening, a social. So you'll want to check that out. Absolutely. And then Tuesday night, we've got our live auction scheduled, and that benefits the Callerlab Foundation. And the foundation does preservation and promotion of square dancing, funding for that. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. And so there's a big fundraiser happening throughout the convention, but specifically on Tuesday night, that'll be a great opportunity to help support caller scholarships, marketing projects, all of the work that we're doing for square dancing.
Yeah, I saw on Facebook, I've seen some of the things that are being auctioned, and it's phenomenal what's being offered. So let's talk more about you. You are a recording artist. Tell me what you've recorded, who you record for.
Sure. I am super privileged to record on Rhythm Records with Wade Driver. My very first singing call that I put out with him was I Will Survive. And so that just holds a special place in my heart. Such a fun song, with a very message of determination, right?
Yeah.
And so that was super cool to do. The second one I did was the Whitney Houston I Want to Dance with Somebody. And so that the music there is phenomenal. It's got this great instrumentation that's happening and just another power song. So really, really love that one as well. It's been so much fun, a cool opportunity, something that I never thought a little girl from Indiana would have this cool opportunity, but I am very lucky and really enjoying that. So it's been fun.
Okay, so as a part of calling, when you get ready and you do a dance, what's your favorite call?
Yeah, okay, so my favorite call at the plus level, I tell the dancers my favorite call is spin chain and exchange the gears because I love the just the energy. I don't know, I love to dance it, right? The exchange part, the energy that happens and just the dynamic of that exchange during the call is just very pretty and just fun, right? Right. So that's my favorite plus call. But if we take it down to the basics, I love a good circle left. I know that sounds cheesy, but when you've got the floor all working together, everybody's on the same rhythm, you add those flair and the little embellishments in there, it just feels good. I don't know. And when you're teaching a class, right? Everybody knows how to do that, right? And you feel this sense of accomplishment right away because it's something everybody can do. And I don't know, I go back to that and just, if every singing call started with a circle left, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, no, I get you. So doing your dances, we know what your favorite calls are now. What's give me a funny story that's happened to you at a dance or at a convention or wherever.
Gosh, okay, funny story. So, okay, I'll tell you about a convention we were at. This is my brother and I were super young. We would have been teenagers. We had just started calling. And for a summer vacation one year, we went up to the Minnesota State Convention. Um, and the folks there were super gracious. They programmed us, as newbies to do a few singing calls. And so we had a lot of fun, but we were also just tearing up the dance floor, having a blast at
Right.
their state convention. And we were at some point talking with some other callers, um, and one of them congratulated us, and we're like, why? What? Okay.
Yeah.
And apparently the word had got around that we were the newlyweds, right? And I think we were
Nice.
probably 16 or 17 at the time. And so we were the newlyweds, and we're like, no, 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 we're not, we're not married. So but then throughout the rest of the weekend, word had spread pretty quickly. And so every time someone would tell us, that, we would say, no, we're not married, but we've been living together for 15 years. So
That's
it threw people
awesome.
off a little bit,
That's
but I
awesome.
still think it's hilarious.
No, it is. That's a good one. I don't have one of those for sure. Um, so you've recorded a couple songs. If you walked into anybody's club and they said, "Wow, I didn't know you were coming. Can you do a tip for us tonight? What's your singing call?"
Oh, so it depends on the theme and the day, but I would say that if we're doing my favorite singing call hands down is Hit Me With Your Best Shot.
Okay.
I That song just again, it's got that, like, the lyrics speak to me, right? This like
Mhm.
message of determination and resilience that comes from that. And it's the kind of song when it comes on the radio, like I will automatically start like dancing in my
Yeah.
car, right?
Right.
And so I don't know, the square dance song that, is cut on that. I think they did a phenomenal job keeping that same energy. And it just makes me happy, right? To sing, and just has that beautiful like punch to it. And again, it's also my favorite song that the Ghost Riders band does.
Mhm.
And so that also makes it extra special for me.
That's awesome. Speaking of the Ghost Riders band, we were talking earlier, and I was telling you that I've done a couple of conventions where I got the opportunity to do it with the Ghost Riders band, and I've done Brandy, which I love Brandy. I've done that a couple times with them, and I did Simple Man, a Leonard Skinner that I believe Scott Bennett put out, and the thing about it is, if we were talking, is when I listen to it on digital music, I know where my get in is for, side space, grand square. Mama told me what. Um, when the band's doing it, it doesn't always sound exactly the same to get in. And so it's just horrifying until you when you hit it and you're like, oh, I'm in, I'm good. And then you start going because you can't reach over and say, let me hit my space bar to pause them and say, hey, can we run that back a minute? When you've got 14, 15 squares at a convention. So it's a little horrifying. Long as once you get in, and like Brandy, it's a side space grand square, and I'm just boom, I'm off and running. And but Simple Man, that frightened me, but it worked out really well for me.
Yeah.
So we've got all that. So we've got Callerlab coming up. Um, we have the national convention in Alabama in June, I think. Of course,
Yes.
we'll all be there for the most part. I'm definitely going to be there because it's one state over from me. What is your schedule like, calling and everything, just for yourself?
Sure. So I think between now and Caller Lab, I've got a couple dances coming up. After Caller Lab, super excited. I'm heading to Costa Rica with the rhythm staff for the rhythm adventure. And so that's going to be an incredible week. It's a destination trip.
Mhm.
So we're going to be dancing at a resort in Costa Rica, and we're just really looking forward to that. Being on staff with some incredible folks is a huge honor for me. So looking forward to that. And then just a busy summer of calling and
Now,
traveling and
where can you get more information about the destination dance that you're
Sure.
doing?
So if you go out to my website, it's actually linked from there. And my website is bergercallers.com, BERGER callers.com. And I've got my schedule out there. There's a link to the flyer for Costa Rica, as well as some other events that are coming up.
Awesome. Is that your own? I mean, everybody's pretty much Facebook and all that. Any other social media you want to put out there for yourself, for people to find you,
Oh,
anything?
sure. I mean, so I do Facebook and Instagram, and then I like to keep my little low-key blog up to date on my website. So if you like
No?
to see what I'm up to, I like to post pictures and just different fun events that we do
All
up
right.
to date there.
Well, that's fantastic, Teresa. Anything else that we didn't talk about? You want to tell me any stories or anything you can think of?
Hmm. I don't know. Let's see. So fun fact about me is that obviously dance is something that I love,
Mhm.
square dancing. But I also love tap dancing. So when I was in college, I went to IU South Bend and I was part of the dance team there. So the tap kick line. And so we tap danced and that was just a fun opportunity, something I miss. So I might go back to that someday. I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that with my calling. And I don't know
Mhm.
that I'll ever get there, but funny to think about regardless.
Uh, I'm never going to be able to tap for you at a square dance. I'll watch you. I'll watch dancers do it, but that's not going to happen for me.
Fair
Um,
enough.
okay. Well, Teresa, it's been a pleasure. Love talking to you. I get to talk to you in a few weeks when we get to Reno. Certainly glad you came on here tonight. And I appreciate it. I just want to tell everybody else, again, Facebook, Charlie Petrie, Square Dance Caller, YouTube, and what else am I on? Spotify, Square Dance Scholars Talking. Make sure you subscribe and all that. We've got Teresa coming up. She'll be Sunday is when you'll be seeing this. I'll release them on Sundays. Bunch of other callers coming. Teresa, awesome talking to you. And I will see you in a few weeks.
All right. Sounds good. Nice talking to you,
All
Charlie.
right.
Good luck with the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.